Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of SEC State of Mind with Taylor Davis and Jason Campbell. We are once again presented by FanDuel. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. Apologies for a little bit of a later episode drop this week. If you can tell, your girl is dealing with a little bit of a cold, which just means it's week 9 of college football season, which is crazy. I feel like we just got this thing going, Jay, and now we're already 9 weeks into it. And like you said a couple weeks ago, we were getting into the point of season that the SEC teams were going to start separating themselves. They had to, right? I mean, the first ranking show and now all of these SEC on SEC matchups. I mean, we had 8 of them in the conference this past weekend. So it is time that you really draw a line in the sand. The pretenders or the contenders. And I think that this week is also going to be very telling in that regard. So we'll look back just briefly on week 8 and some of the top storylines that came out of it, top results. But we're going to start with our awards because I think it gives us the best kickoff into conversation. But Jason, I did just want to start with kind of your perspective. I always love to kind of pick your brain on past experiences. And obviously you were before the playoff era, but still there does feel like a very tangible difference at this point in season. It does start feeling like crunch time a little bit. Just kind of your take on that experience as a player when I have to imagine those conversations are being had in the locker room too. Like, okay, we've ironed out whatever wrinkles we possibly could. It's pedal to the metal at this point.
Oh, most definitely. When you're playing, in the locker room before the season, you break everything up to quarters. All right. So now there's 12 regular season games. So, the first 4 is the first quarter, the second 4 is the second quarter, the third 4 is the third quarter, and the fourth 4 the last quarter. Right. Okay. So your goal is to win each quarter. And now you look at for example, a lot of teams are middle of the season, they play 7 games. Mm-hmm. Some teams have had the bye week and everything. And now there's 2 bye weeks in the season, right? So, So typically your season lasts a little bit longer. The thing is, you find out how can you win each quarter, and then you look at the playoffs, right? What gets you into the playoffs, and that's where you're at in this standpoint. So there are teams right now that are like, okay, we're out of the playoffs, correct? Yeah. But there's teams that are vying for the playoffs, and some teams can play spoiler. Mm-hmm. To try to get to a great bowl game. Other teams may just still, try to figure out like, where are we? What direction are we going in? And then start to think, what do we need to add to our roster so this time next year we can be in contention and not be out of it halfway through the season. So there's so many boxes that are unchecked and so many boxes that are checked. And like I said, people are updating your resume, like, because you're at a point if you're a coach or if you're a player, we live in a popcorn society. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that, everything's microwavable. Like, there's the years of coaches being at long places for 8 to 10 years, before, I don't know if we'll see that on a consistent basis just because revenue share is involved. Everyone can get solid players. So now it really comes down to, okay, who can really get their teams to buy in and week out to know that you can be beat any given Saturday. That used to be our motto in the NFL on Sundays. It's now in college. Mm-hmm. And you look at the Vanderbilt, there's no surprise with Vanderbilt. They was competitive before revenue share. Now it just added them an opportunity to get better players. And now look at them. They're 6-1. College game day is going there this week. Yeah, so there's teams like that. Indiana, is another team. Arizona State, teams that you don't always see competing are now having the opportunity to compete, and your big dogs are kind of like having to figure it out. So it's an interesting point, Taylor. And Halloween is next week, and so it's about to get spooky.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's been some some scares already this season, and you know that there are going to be more to come. I think there are a couple teams that are on or should be on upset watch this weekend, and we're going to get into that a little bit. But let's start with our awards as we close the book on week 8. We start with the positive around here. That is the SEC Standout. Who really impressed or caught your attention out of week 8? I'll go first for this one. I was very close to giving it to Auburn's defense because I do think that they played a great game. It was very difficult, another really tough loss down on the Plains, but I thought the defense really played hard and continues to. But I am going to give my SEC standout to Tim Beck, Vanderbilt's offensive coordinator. When you talk about Vandy this year, we are talking, and rightfully so much about Diego Pavia, about Clark Lee, even about Jerry Kill, and I all justify. But the game plan that Tim Beck drew up against LSU was so good. They knew LSU's defense is going to be so aggressive trying to get after Diego Pavia. They were also without Whit Weeks. And when something like that happens, typically your guys try to overcompensate a little bit. He almost used their aggression against them, and he drew up such a great game plan. The run game, not just Pavia. I mean, these backs are just, and Cedric Alexander's been there his entire career. He played as a true freshman before Vandy started coming up with all of this success. So they have really done so much from a holistic perspective and a culture perspective, and hats off to Clark Lee and what he did. But Tim Beck is calling such great games, and I don't think it's getting enough recognition.
236 yards rushing against LSU. That's what
Crazy.
Vanderbilt offense did. Like, that's a defense that's done really well against the run this year. Like I said, Weeks is one person, right? You still should be able to be relevant enough to stop or at least hold them to a reasonable amount of yards. But to give up 236 yards rushing is hard to beat anybody. And LSU found that out Saturday. My SEC standout goes to the guy that keeps proving himself over and over. He's like the least talked about guy when it comes to big games. It's always the other quarterback, or it's always the other team. And Mike Bobo doesn't give it a lot of credit and everything. Everyone wants to beat up on Mike Bobo, but all he does is make Gunnar Stockton looks like he belongs. So my SEC standout goes to Gunnar Stockton and his co-host, Mike Bobo. Because Gunnar Stockton put up 236 yards passing, 4 touchdowns in a game that was going back and forth. I think the first 8 drives, it was touchdowns, points scored. Yeah.
It was
and
crazy.
Then all of a sudden, the fourth quarter, things changed for Ole Miss. Georgia's defense tightened up on a couple of things. But Gunnar Stockton did not flinch. How many times we've seen them do this year? In Tennessee, in Auburn, even against Alabama, they fought their way back. In this game, they got behind to Ole Miss 2 scores at one point, came back. So they don't flinch. Everyone needs to stop with the Mike Bobo talk. Like, he's doing an exceptional job. You're winning games. You're putting up points. It's not going to always look flashy. It's not about flashing. It's about getting W's. And that's what they're doing.
It is very businesslike for Georgia, and Gunnar Stockton fits that mold so well. I agree with you. I did find it funny, though. His post-game interview was terrible. This guy is literally, he gives so little. He's just like even keel. But maybe that's what works for him, and it's why those moments don't really get to him. It's really interesting. Meanwhile, you've got guys like Diego Pavia and even Ty Simpson that just give you passion and all of it. And Gunnar Stockton's just like, so I like that one. All right. We flip the page a little bit to SEC Siren, not necessarily the panic button or red alert, but it's a warning sign. My SEC Siren, I'm going to give to Ole Miss. Because it was a very impressive game, majority of it, really until the fourth quarter. Trinidad Chambliss had a lot of composure, a lot of poise until they really amped up the pressure there at the end, and you saw a little bit of his inexperience come into play. But honestly, all of that isn't why I'm saying it, because your one loss to Georgia, everybody's going to be able to stomach, okay, even the committee. And honestly, with the expanded playoff, you do feel like one loss and you're fine. Even 2 losses in the SEC, you could be fine. But you've got Oklahoma this week. And I fear that if you carry any sort of emotional hangover from that Georgia loss into Oklahoma and you end up with an L, I don't know that Ole Miss gets in. So, and I would also add, if you go in and lose to Oklahoma, all the noise around losing your head coach is about to go up 10 notches, because I think that if this year he can't end up in the playoff, getting to Gainesville with those resources is going to be even more intriguing to him. So Ole Miss has to bury what happened this past week, truly wipe the slate clean, and re-enter this week in a matchup with Oklahoma with the same confidence and swagger that they had when they hadn't had a loss yet.
I like it. I agree. Just because you're talking about you want to compete for championships, and Ole Miss been knocking on the door for the last couple of years and have not found a way to win the big one.
Yep.
It's either one or two games that they have a letdown in there. And I just think for this team to get to the next level, you're right. They have to go and beat Oklahoma this week to even have a shot to get in the playoffs. Because if you look at their schedule is not a relevant opponents left that gives them an opportunity to have a big win. So this is it for them.
Yep.
My SEC Siren, like I said, there's been a lot of, coaching changes going on. Florida just made a coaching change. It's kind of been a soap opera, right, since last year in the middle of the season with Billy Napier and Florida. And now it's kind of come to an end. So, teams are looking, and there's a lot of – Taylor, there's only so many coaches, right?
I know.
And everyone's getting rid of coaches left and right. Okay, who you going to replace these guys? Because at the end of the day, you're going to run out of replacements. So you're going to have to either give someone an opportunity that's not been a head coach and been a coordinator and say, hey, I'm just going to take my chances with you and give you your first opportunity as a head coach.
Yeah.
Like, those are going to start happening as well. And that's not bad. I've seen guys do great at that. But my SC Siren this week is for a coach that it's not on anybody's hot seat, but it is getting really warm in Tennessee. And the reason I say that is because they struggle to beat Georgia. They struggle to beat Alabama. They're two biggest rivals. And every time they play these two teams, it's a big game. And they seem to fall behind early in these ball games, or they don't sustain and stay consistent. And to me, if you want to be the team that Tennessee is trying to be, you have got to find a way to knock off your rivals at some point. And Saturday, you're on the goal line and you get a pick six that turns the ball game entirely the opposite direction. Like, those things can't happen when you're trying to upset or win the big one. And for me, it's Tennessee because, okay, they lost to Georgia, they lost to Bama. They can't afford to lose another game. They have a shot to make it to the playoffs. They have got to win out. And it won't be any easier this week. They play a Kentucky team that should have beat Texas last week, beat them everywhere but the scoreboard.
Yes.
So Kentucky is a team that their record don't show that they're a better football team. They're better than what their records say. So Tennessee better come ready to play this Saturday night in Kentucky if they want to think they're going to go up there and just be an easy cupcake game.
And Cutter's been playing better the past couple of weeks. A big problem with Kentucky has been the quarterback situation, and he kind of feels like he's finding a little bit of a groove. And it does feel like Kentucky, heck, Auburn, Arkansas, they are just chomping at the bit to finally pull that one off. And it could be a matter of timing for Tennessee. You get them this week, like when they just took Texas into overtime. I'm at the point, though, of wanting to label Texas as a fraud. Can we all agree? Like, I'm so over it at this point. Like, are they, aren't they? I've seen enough to believe that they're not. They're not what we hyped them up to be at the beginning of season. Maybe they're going to end up, with another big win. The Oklahoma one confused the heck out of me, but I think they are the team that lost to Ohio State, to Florida, and took it into overtime to play the SEC's worst team. Like, I think that's truly where they are right now, and we need to stop trying to force them into some bucket that they're not in. But yeah, I like that, Jay. I mean, that you're right. That's not one that anyone is talking about, but it has been a hot minute for Josh Heupel, and this definitely feels like a team that showed some promise early in season. So what is that next step for them that gets them into that tier of the elite? And you really felt like that Georgia game should have been the beginning of it. Like, that one was within reach. And so to not make up for that one just yet is definitely interesting. So, and that Kentucky game has been, if I'm not mistaken, a one possession result the past like 4 or 5 years. Like this one has really been, close for them as well. So, you did mention Florida parting ways with Billy Napier. I did want to get your take on it real quickly. Obviously, this has been something that and no one was surprised by. Unfortunately, it has been discussed for so long, and Billy Napier's, whole stance on the whole thing was basically in expectation that the end was near, which is difficult, I would imagine, for him to be in that situation. It's made a little bit easier by the check he's cashing in 30 days, but still, these guys love to coach and love to be in these seats. So, but I am curious your take, because there are a lot of names that are circulating, one of which, obviously, Lane Kiffin. First, gut instinct, who you see as a potential, because look, the list is substantial right now. You do have some that have done great things, seem like a good fit. Will they, won't they? But just your initial first guess.
Oh, man, my initial first guess, it's two names that come up, right?
Okay.
You got Notre Dame head coach
Marcus Freeman,
because
that would be wild.
He can recruit.
Yeah.
And it's hard to get Florida type players into Notre Dame. It's just harder. When you think about Lane Kiffin, he looks like he's a Florida guy. And what I mean by that is, Lane, like, he likes to be out in the sun and, and
he's doing hot yoga.
Yeah, doing hot yoga, all those different things. And to me, like, he knows that he could really, really recruit there because it's Florida, right? It just kind of sells itself a little bit. But I just think those two guys, why? Because they competed at a high level yearly. But it's going to be hard for Lane to leave Ole Miss.
I think so too.
His son is the quarterback at Oxford High School. I can't remember if he was a junior or senior.
Yeah.
And I think he's doing exceptionally well. So you don't have to uproot your family, especially if your kid's in high school.
Yeah.
That's the hard part for him. And he's kind of become legendary at Ole Miss. He's kind of become the best coach to come through there. And there's been some good ones that come through there. But him consistently winning 10 games, he's up there. So those two names pop to mind. My other one is Brent Key from Georgia Tech.
Mm-hmm.
That's
somebody's going to snatch him.
Yeah, that's probably the third one. So the thing is, they made this move now, regardless if they was going to win that game Saturday or not. It was already known they was going to make this move. It just worked out for Billy Napier to go out on a win. Mm-hmm. Something fluke happened. Mississippi State is in field goal range, and they try to throw some pass instead of just setting up for a field goal and basically lose the game.
Yep.
But they're trying to get themselves in the hunt to position for one of these coaches and to let it be known that this job is officially open. So they don't want to miss out by dragging it on. They see the writing on the wall, so they just went ahead and both probably just say, okay, this is it. We're going to move on.
Yeah, it's wild. That was the 10th firing in the FBS this season. So, and another one was added with Colorado State's head coach this weekend was fired as well. So now that's 11 openings. Stanford, Kent State, UCLA, Virginia Tech, Oklahoma State, Arkansas, Penn State, Oregon State, UAB, Florida, and Colorado State. And to your point, what?
If you have to guess who's next on that list, who would it be? I'm going Wisconsin.
You put me in a real pickle asking me that question. I am kind of surprised.
You don't have to answer. I answer because you cover games. I just say probably Wisconsin.
Yeah, I'm honestly surprised that Luke Fickell has not been fired yet. I was on the sidelines for Florida State's loss this past weekend against Stanford, and I can tell you, nothing good is going on in Tallahassee right now, but Mike Norvell's buyout is crazy. Yeah. Him combined with the staff, you guys, that's like $100 million. Like, it is absurd. And honestly, I think this season is a masterclass on why the heck are we giving these coaches these massive extensions? The same thing with Mark Stoops. I'll be honest. I have nothing against Mark Stoops. I really enjoy covering him, but like $9 million after just, getting them to 10-win seasons in Lexington. Like, why are you putting your, athletic director and staff in this situation where you are going to have to come up with insane money that you will be paying for years after to make changes? I just think that you're going to have to start seeing that change, because this is not sustainable. But Florida State's AD came out and made a comment that basically they are in full support of Mike Norvell finishing the year. It did not say remaining. I think they're just going, give us some time to figure this out, because how you start a season beating Alabama and then you've lost 4 straight in the ACC. And it was very evident on the sideline that things have kind of gone awry. There was no cohesion. There was, like, in position groups, the guys were together, but as a team, not really. So it is a very, very odd culture around coaching right now. It kind of feels like its own entity. And now with all of these openings, it will be wild to see other programs get in the mix. But yeah, Wisconsin is on that list. Florida State's on that list. We know Auburn's on that list. It's inevitable for us to at least not make mention of. There is a lot of pressure around Hugh Freeze, and with Auburn going to Arkansas this week, a team that is also considered one of the bottom dwellers in the SEC, another loss, and you really are getting backed into a corner at this point. So there will be a lot more to follow.
Another thing too, head coaches get buyouts, right? They get paid substantial amount of money, right? That does have to change, right? Because you're tying the institution's hands, and you're getting fired basically for underachieving in some cases, right?
But rewarded.
So it's the best job in America. But I feel for assistant coaches, because it's totally different for them.
Yeah.
Assistant coaches are not completely paid all the way out in some cases.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're on their last year of their deals, then that's it. They have to hope that they're picked up in the off season. So it's different how you look at it. The other thing is too, yes, you mentioned Auburn. The thing about Auburn is we lost 4 in a row in the SEC for the 3rd year in a row. So this to me is almost like a must win against Arkansas. And for a lot of reasons other than just coaching, like team morale, cultural, like you don't want to start going down that road of we're always close, but we can't get it done. Saying? Like, you got to get it done. And their schedule shapes up for them that if they get this one, then they can kind of go on a roll a little bit.
Sure.
But they've got to win this one. This is almost a must win for them this Saturday.
No, it is.
Just because in a lot of different ways. You explain one, but there's a lot more reasons why this is definitely a must win for them against Arkansas.
I would agree.
It's not going to be easy.
No, it certainly isn't. I mean, Arkansas had Texas A&M. They had Tennessee. Like, these have been very close 3-point deficits. So, and high scoring games. Taylor Green is a freak of an athlete. Like, he is really, really effective. And I don't know that Auburn has really seen a quarterback like him thus far. The rushing defense has been stout, but this guy's a different level of athlete. And however, on the opposite side, you kind of have the worst SEC offense against the worst SEC defense. I mean, truly, Arkansas hadn't been able to stop anybody. If Auburn's offense can't get some sort of rhythm that ends in touchdowns against their defense, things really do start going downhill very quickly. I would not be surprised if you see Ashton Daniels get in at some point. But let's look ahead to week 9, because we do have some very impactful matchups, arguably could end up being playoff elimination games. We're at that point of season, and resumes are going to start looking kind of similar, and these could end up being tiebreakers when all is said and done. So let's start with a top 15 matchup. It's where College Game Day is headed. I could probably look out my window and see the set if I look hard enough. Missouri at Vanderbilt. If you had told us, let's say 2 years ago, 3 years ago, that a Missouri Vanderbilt matchup was going to have playoff implications and College Game Day would be there, I would tell you you're out of your freaking mind. But alas, here we are, and they've earned it. So Missouri heading to Vandy, and this one definitely has a lot riding on it. Both teams had a bit of a, quote, get right game this past week coming off dubs. What do you see in this one, Jay?
Man, I love this game.
Same.
It's because you got two defenses that are really, really good.
Yeah.
And then you have a quarterback in Pavia. He doesn't put up crazy stats, but it's his drive, right? It's his energy that gets guys around him ready to play, and they can run the football. And Missouri is supposed to be really good against the run. Now Auburn had success running the ball against them a week ago,
Yeah.
but on average, though, they do a really good job with their front four. They're one of the leaders in the country as well in sacks. Putting pressure on the quarterback. So Pavia welcomes the challenge, right?
For
Like
sure.
he welcomes the challenge. And then just Nashville as a whole is going to be packed out. Like, this is deserving. I saw some people come out the college game. They talking about you might as well call it SEC Network now because that's all y'all do is go to SEC games. I'm like, guys, when is the last time you ever seen Vanderbilt be able to be in this position?
Exactly.
It was fussing about, I guess, South Dakota State versus North Dakota State. I was just like,
y'all, college game day going to FCS, I don't see it. Now, had Memphis not lost to UAB this past weekend, Memphis USF would have been a top 25 game, and an American Conference champion is most likely going to end up with that group of 5 bid. Game day was very seriously considering going to Memphis for that matchup, but Memphis got upset by UAB. So that added to it. That's also the game I'm on, if anyone's curious. Go ahead, Jay.
But LSU and Vanderbilt, right? Vanderbilt had to beat LSU to make this happen.
Correct.
And they do it. And Missouri had to beat Auburn to make this happen. And both of those games were close. Auburn games were a lot closer, went to overtime.
Yeah.
But when you just look at this matchup, though, like both teams love to run the football. Jay Hardy and Robertson, that backfield, right? And then you talk about what Vanderbilt does from a run game. So you're talking about a physical football game for 4 quarters. Now, Vanderbilt's 2.5-point favorite. I agree with FanDuel on this.
Okay.
51.5 points. I'm not so sure it gets to 51 points.
I agree.
This sounds like a 17, 14, 20, 17 type game. 3-point game somewhere within there. So I like the numbers, and this is going to be a great matchup. I'm excited that College Game Day is there because it's deserving. Like, you know how hard it is for Vanderbilt to have to win to get in the SEC to have College Game Day there? I say you cannot argue that if you're a college football fan.
Totally.
Like, they deserve this opportunity.
And it's top number 15 versus number 10. I don't care what conference we're in. That would have been a pick for game day. They were also just at Oregon a couple weeks ago. Everyone relax. But I also think that you saw this week, Vanderbilt kind of returned to what they were finding such success with last year. It's their time of possession control. Man, they churned the clock against LSU. Their time of possession was 36 minutes and 33 seconds to LSU's 23-27. So they had the ball 14 more minutes than LSU did. They play keep away. They let Diego be the game controller that he is. And Tim Beck really uses your defensive aggressiveness against you. I like Vanderbilt in this matchup. I think that they do. And I think while Missouri showcased, their fight and their whatever, and Bo Perbula's been great, and Ahmad Hardy, yada, yada. Kevin Coleman Jr. is very, very talented. They also showed some weaknesses, and Vandy is on top of all of that. So I think I'm going with the Doors in this one as well.
Somebody got to get, because Missouri was number 1 in the conference last week in time possession, averaging 34 minutes. That's why I say this is a scoring game. If both of them play that ball control, you lose opportunities to put up a lot of points.
This is one of those two that, like, whoever wins the coin toss, I think they opt to receive. Like, you try and rack up as many possessions as you possibly can in a game like this. So wouldn't be surprised with that. All right. We also have another good one, all important matchup for the home team and the road team as well, but a little more cushion for them. Texas A&M, the number 3 team in the country, heads down to the Bayou, taking on LSU in Death Valley, a night game. You have to acknowledge that because it very much is a factor. I said that about the 12th man and Kyle Field. Death Valley is one of the best home field advantages in college football as well, and it will certainly give A&M a tough test. Our friends over at FanDuel have Texas A&M favored 2.5. The over-under set at 48.5. Now, obviously, who's available in this game will also be a storyline. Weeks was out in the Vanderbilt game with an ankle injury. I think that he's going to be good to go. No official report on that, but you do need to have him back in this one, especially with how Texas A&M's offense has been able to put up points. Another notable injury update, though, LSU is going to be without their starting left tackle, Tyree Adams, and that offensive line has struggled this year, giving Garrett Nussmeier time, allowing him to kind of get through his progressions, and now you take away another key starter. So definitely going to be interesting. He was under pressure against Vandy pretty much majority of the day. And senior edge for Texas A&M, Cassius Howell, has really been very effective along with that defensive front. We have sung their praises all year. He could have a day with Tyree Adams out. So I think that this one is really going to be a matter of who wants it more, because I would argue that A&M is a more talented team and has shown more, but you go into Death Valley against an LSU team that knows their back is truly against the wall. I feel like kind of the way I do about Ole Miss, if LSU loses this one, I don't know that you're really in the conversation much anymore. There at the end, we may still be talking about you as a bubble team, depending on what you do, but you have a very, very difficult uphill and near impossible climb if you lose this one. A&M, if you lose this one, you're still in the conversation, and the committee is going to respect a home loss. It's literally Ole Miss. Like they're going to respect a loss in Athens to Georgia. The committee would respect a loss in Death Valley at night to LSU. But if you go in here and pull this off, you could be seriously like a pretty much not shoe in. No one can be a shoe in, but I mean, odds are A&M's in the playoff. Like this is a crazy, a lot on the line game. A&M is 7-0 for the first time since 1994. And let me just add, that was the last time that they beat LSU in Death Valley. Kind of weird that 94 is the year that we're talking about, and that was the last time that they got a dub in this venue. So a lot there. A&M's offense is averaging 464 yards per game, 36.1 points per game, and LSU is averaging just 25 points a game. It has been well documented the issues that LSU has had on the offensive side of the ball. I did feel like you saw a little bit of a step forward in the game against Vanderbilt. They seem to establish a little bit more of a rhythm, but they're going to have to do that against a very effective Texas A&M defense at times, because not always. They allowed over 500 yards against Arkansas. That's the thing. Like A&M has freak athletes on the defensive side of the ball, and the defensive front has been effective, but they just allow some holes, and it does make you scratch your head a little bit because there's no reason for it. But Taylon Green is a very effective rusher and play extender. Garrett Nussmeier is not. We know that. So I think it's going to be a can LSU's offense take a step forward? Texas A&M's offense, they're going to put up yards, put up points. I think it comes down to, for me, you continue to look at the quarterback. Like, does Garrett Nussmeier light it up through the air against this A&M defense that has shown inconsistency? Jason's saying no. Or does Marcel Reed continue to showcase the poise? You've got Mario Craver and Casey Concepcion. They are going to be without running back Le'Veon Moss. He's been kind of in and out the past few weeks. I don't really know what's going on with that, but it's going to be a very tough test. I still believe in Texas A&M, but this is going to be their toughest test so far.
Taylor, you're being too kind. To
who?
Think of the season. We're in. It's time for someone to take the bull by the horn, and just start saying, "Hey, we're gone. We're leaving everybody else." And this is Texas A&M opportunity to go and take control of the conference. They're undefeated, right? And then all of a sudden, you keep winning, and now you get a great bid in the playoffs. You may get the bye, right? So they're playing to get themselves to a bye, right?
Totally.
So ultimately, LSU, stick a fork in them. Done. No playoffs. Only way LSU get to the playoffs is they have to win this game and beat Bama. Do you see them beating A&M?
Heck no. That's
the only road to the playoffs for them. They haven't showed me a reason yet to believe that they can beat A&M and beat Bama and down the road. So even if they win and spook up and win this one Saturday, I just still haven't seen enough for them to beat both of those teams. So
I
I like A&M in this game, but I'm going with the upset. I'm taking LSU Saturday night.
You give me whiplash sometimes. How in the world did anyone see that coming? That's what I was going to say, because I like looking at A&M's schedule. I have it pulled up right now. What is their most impressive win for real? I Notre Dame. It was a 1-point game. That was one of the craziest games of season, but it was early, and that is taken into consideration, right, wrong, or indifferent. The committee does that. The time at which these games happen. You beat Auburn at home. You beat Mississippi State at home. You beat Florida at home. You barely beat Arkansas 3 points on the road. This is the toughest. This is by far the toughest road. And LSU has everything to play for. I don't know, though. I think I'm going to stick with A&M. But this one's going to be the toughest by far, like I said.
Go right ahead. Go
right ahead. But Jay has been on point with his upset calls this season, I will say.
As they call it. BK. That sounds like a group back in the day. BK. But
sounds
BK,
like Burger King. It is. It's what people call Burger King.
Oh, okay. Well, I haven't eaten Burger King in a long time. I haven't got Whopper in a while. But Whopper used to be my thing. Give me a Whopper with cheese, double cheese. But 10 years ago. I say this. BK has to win this game for his culture in the LSU if he plans to stay there. Or if not, he may be on the phone with his agent trying to get to Penn State.
I kind of feel like he already is. And y'all know he was my SEC Siren a few weeks ago, because I just do not see, I don't feel like they like him. I don't feel like he likes them. Not the players, but like the fit and the culture in Baton Rouge. And like
when he changed his voice, when he got the
never
job.
Never forget. And like in the recruiting thing, like doing that, like it just doesn't feel like him. Penn State feels like him.
Yeah.
Like it just, how ironic though. What if Marcus Freeman does go to Florida and Brian tries to go back to Notre Dame?
Yeah, but Notre Dame
never won a championship there. Would they want him back?
I don't. How many coaches you see end up going back to their former schools?
Very few, but Urban Meyer is somehow being talked about with Florida. It's crazy.
Oh, no, that ship sailed. That ship is out in the middle of the sea.
It done sank.
Yeah,
it's the Titanic. Down it goes. All right, that one's going to be very interesting. We're split over here, but you're right. I mean, the Brian Kelly experiment could be close to ending. Who knows? All right, next up, we've got, we kind of teased it a little bit earlier. No, we didn't. Yeah, we did. Ole Miss and Oklahoma, number 8 versus number 13. Jason, what you seeing for this one?
Well, before I get to this one, correction, Luke Fickell, AD, has come out and said that they are probably not going to fire him. So his name is off the list. Now, Ole Miss
and Oklahoma. It kind of felt like if they were going to do it, they would have done it sooner. Right. And now I'm sure ADs are gun shy because they have to see, where does my program measure up to the other ones that are open right now?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think your top candidates,
top end coaches,
right?
So you have to think about that as well. Ole Miss, Oklahoma, top offense versus top defense, right? Love the matchup. I take Oklahoma's offense over Ole Miss's defense. So I think that's the breaker for me right there. Is I really like Ole Miss to win this game, but for some reason, Oklahoma's at home. Their back is against the wall. They know they have to win. This is John Mateer's 3rd game back since injury, so he's probably feeling a lot better and a lot more comfortable.
Yeah.
And when you get that defensive end, Mason Jr. coming off the edge, and you get those guys humming, like Ole Miss just went against a defense, which I think Oklahoma's still better than Georgia's defense right now.
I agree.
I just think the X factor for me is John Mateer in this ball game. It's the reason I think Oklahoma gets it done.
Well, it looks like our friends at FanDuel agree with you. I actually had not seen that.
4.5 and 53.5 over under.
Yeah, I hadn't seen that until today. That's interesting. I just am so, what the heck? how did they lose to Texas? I understand Napier wasn't full go. He threw 3 interceptions in that game, but he can't be your entire offense. And Texas hasn't been good enough. Like that one to me is, I scratch my head. And I
It's a
mean this
rival
with all
game.
respect. Hey,
Yeah, it's a huge rival game.
yeah. I also mean this with all due respect, but Auburn should have beaten Oklahoma. So I'm still not sold on Oklahoma. And this game would be a big difference maker in that. But I still believe in this Ole Miss offense. I felt like they had enough to beat Georgia this past week. I think if that game was in Oxford, they do win that game. I think they stick with Trinidad Chambliss, even though Austin Simmons is healthy. I didn't see enough. I think that was such a great, and you hate to hear this, but like it's true, such a great learning experience for Chambliss last week. I mean, let's not forget where the kid came from. A fourth quarter tight game in Athens like that. I mean, talk about being thrown in the deep end. And yes, he seemed a little rushed and a little nervous at times, but it was his first one. Like, carry that with you into Norman. I still believe in Ole Miss. So I think we may be split on this one too. Wow, this is going to make next week's episode really fun. Last one we're going to highlight real quick, even though there are a few more SEC matchups. Number 4, Alabama heads to Columbia to face a limping, dang near crawling South Carolina team. And what a shame that it is, because I am a huge Shane Beamer fan. I felt really good about Lenora Sellers. I still think Dylan Stewart is an incredible freak athlete, but what the heck is going on with the Gamecocks? It has been pretty bad football, but FanDuel feels pretty comfortable that that's going to be the case again this week, favoring Alabama 11.5 with the over-under at 47.5. And this has been talked about all week around this game too, so I'm just going to go ahead and repeat it. These are the kind of games that have snuck up on Kalen DeBoer. You beat the big ones, you win at home, you pull off, you're smoking your cigar, and then somehow you go into Columbia and trip. Like they lost 2 unranked teams last year after beating the big dogs. So this team has to be mentally sound this year to make sure that this one does not become a trip. They have won 6 straight, including 4 straight ranked wins. You have so much hype around all of your matchups in the past few weeks. And then everyone's giving you the easiest throwaway against South Carolina. You got to make sure you don't play into that narrative too, because Columbia still is a very tough place to play. And South Carolina does still, like I pointed out, have some solid athletes. So I think it's going to be a test of their discipline and the culture that Kalen DeBoer has poured into. But you know what I also highlight here? Ryan Grubb, Mike Shula. Very different stories in their first year in these situations, because, and the irony that Mike Shula was at Alabama, played quarterback at Alabama. Like if you search him, the pictures are him in the Bama logo. But Ryan Grubb has done such a good job with Ty Simpson in that offense at Alabama. And Mike Shula, I would argue the offense has taken several steps backwards. So I feel confident. Bama looks like one of the best teams in the nation right now. Like they just are. It's going to come down to their mental preparedness and making sure that they don't feel like they've arrived.
Here we go. Bama, Ryan Grubbs will be a head coach next year somewhere else, because he's done it now in Washington as the OC, and now he's done it again. Yeah, he seems to be a QB whisperer, right? You look at Penix, what he did in Washington with Penix, now what he's doing with Ty Simpson, a guy that hasn't had a bunch of experience before this year started. And after game 1, everybody was ready to throw everybody away. And now you look at them 7 weeks later, they're one of the top 5 teams in the country. Yeah. And Ty Simpson is playing probably the best position, playing the quarterback position as good as you can play it, and he doesn't flinch. The reason Alabama will go into South Carolina and win this game is because of Ty Simpson, his leadership, his poise. But with that being said, don't drink the rat poison, because Saban is in there all week telling these guys, this is the type of games that sneak up on you. This is the type of game that you take Coach Beamer, who's a competitor, and Mike Shula, who's a competitor. They've talked so bad about that offense all week and over the last month. And especially last week, they lost at home 26-7 to Oklahoma. So in order to your food doesn't taste the same, Taylor, after a loss like that all week. I don't care if you eat steak, shrimp, lobster, crab legs, pasta.
It's bad.
whatever it is, biscuits with butter on top. It doesn't matter. It doesn't taste the same. Everything
Yeah.
tastes off because of that loss. These guys
Yeah.
can't wait. How do you rewrite the ship? You go play one of the best teams in the country in your place on Saturday, and you show up and you try to knock off the big dog. That's
Yeah.
how you get the taste out of your mouth. And that's what Beamer is teaching these guys all week. This is a dangerous game for Alabama. They've got to get up early in this ball game and knock out South Carolina and take their wheel away. That whatever they come there with, they got to take it away early to let them know, like, no, it's not happening today.
Right.
But this is an interesting game. I think Alabama gets it done, but in a closer than 11.5 points.
Okay. I like that. I also think for South Carolina, that offensive line has to find ways to give Lenore Sellers a little bit of time. Alabama had 4 sacks against Tennessee this weekend, and Tennessee, up until that game, had only allowed 4 sacks all season. So Alabama is getting after these quarterbacks. And if Lenore Sellers makes your thing go, which he does, you have to find ways to let him be that guy against an Alabama defensive front that has made things very difficult, even against some of the most veteran offensive lines in the SEC. So that will be a key part of this. Also will be Dylan Stewart's health, because he left the Oklahoma game in the first quarter and did not return. And Beamer said he was optimistic about his availability, but without him, the defense just had 1 sack and 3 tackles for loss the entire game against Oklahoma. So very impactful in that one. There's going to be some other ones, like we said, Kentucky, Tennessee, which weirdly enough has been close in years past. Mississippi State versus Texas, Auburn versus Arkansas. I'm calling for Mississippi State to beat Texas.
Oh, that was my pick. That's
your upset watch.
Was Mississippi State to beat Texas at home.
I agree.
The cowbells are ringing. They will be singing. And but my upset of the week is, outside of that one in the SEC, is Kentucky knocks off Tennessee.
I'm not bold enough to pick that one. That is wild. I
You
could
just
see
had a tough
it.
loss. They're in their head, right? They've
Yeah.
lost 2 rival games already, Georgia and Bama. Now you come to Kentucky. Kentucky has nothing to lose. Tennessee has everything to gain. And that what makes it a dangerous matchup, right? Like, you're going to have a lot of people, bourbon and all this type of stuff touring, while Kentucky's going to be focused on trying to beat Tennessee. Tennessee is going there. This is just a fun trip for us. Let's go get the dub and get back home. Not so fast, my friends. Tennessee better be careful this weekend.
I like that. I think Mississippi State gets Texas. Mississippi State has been right there. Like we said, should have gotten the win over Florida this past week, but coulda, shoulda, woulda really doesn't freaking matter in football, nor does being close. It doesn't matter. It's about who has the fight when the situations are the toughest and the circumstances aren't perfect to pull off a win. That's all that matters. And I just am not a believer in Texas. I said it. I think Texas is a fraud. I think that who they are is actually the team that has showed up in these losses. That one, pulling a rabbit out of a hat against Oklahoma, like you said, that one's a rivalry. So it's just different. I think Mississippi State gets the win over Texas, and that'll be a huge one for Jeff Lebby and that group, because they've been right there and they deserve it. But it's going to be an exciting week 9. And like we said, playoff implications. It feels like we said it a few weeks ago, these teams are just going to have to knock each other out. And this is a weekend that you feel like that's going to happen. So teams like LSU, Ole Miss, Tennessee, you got to find ways to pull this off, or the conversation around your program looks very, very different next week. But luckily, we'll be here to cover it all. So make sure you come on back next week to watch SEC State of Mind, or listen. We're available wherever you get your podcasts, Apple app, Spotify, iHeart, you name it. We're there. And you can also find us on YouTube, on Believe's YouTube page. You can just search SEC State of Mind. Our entire playlist will come up with all of our episodes going all the way back to when we were just an Auburn show. So make sure you go back and watch. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Do that in the podcast app as well as on YouTube. Leave some comments. Let us know your SEC standouts and SEC Sirens as we head into week 9, and we will be back next week to cover all the action. Oh, Jay will be on the call as always on Auburn Sports Network this week, covering Auburn, Arkansas. So make sure you tune in and listen to him. And I will be on the call for USF versus Memphis. Would have been a top 25, but USF still ranked in the top 25. They have a huge wins over Boise State, over Florida. So definitely a team to watch for as the American race really heats up. So that will be on noon Eastern on ESPN2. So you can find us in all of those places, and we'll be back here next week to talk about it all. We'll see ya.
I'm ready to roll. Put some questions that you want us to answer for next week. Get more involved with us. If we can't get you right back, we can't respond instantly, we will respond, or we'll answer your questions on next week's episode. So who's hot right now? Who's not right now? And, give us your opinion.
Love it. Everyone's got one. We'll see ya. Peace.
See ya. Peace.